if you can take the rush, New York City can be a great place for you. If not, if you can't keep up, just stay for a while, check out the lifestyle, and then go back to where you came from.
It is the ride of a lifetime.
It's great for what it is. It's a place that you can sit in, have fun, enjoy your fleeting moments of life, those quick moments of life. But don't stay here, because you will harden and you will hate yourself.
Vacations work. Don't go without a sense of who you are and who you want to be. Because a place like New York, you can drown in very, very quickly. And if you want New York to shape who you are and you don't care what the outcome is, go for it. But if you care about who you are and you definitely know who you want to be in life, keep that. Stick to it. Don't lose it. Because it is very easy to lose your way.
Have a dream. All you need is a dream. Get a dream, work towards it, be determined. Just go for it.
New York, home to 8 million people. I was 18, on my own, and ready to take a stab at success. I'd be lying if I told you I wasn't a little nervous. If I were to succeed, I knew I had to focus on the reason for moving in the first place, to become a real actor. For many years, I, like so many people, expected the city to be glamorous, lights always shining, and celebrities on every corner. The reality was, I had moved to a real place. Clearly, the New York I was eager to explore only existed in films.
It's completely different. It has too much history that's not portrayed. You can see it in movies, you can see it in documentaries, but it's completely different living here.
It's alive, it's vibrant, it's bubbling with all kinds of life, good and bad.
One only has to live there a week to discover how true these statements are. Trying to understand New York is about as difficult as explaining the rush, fear, freedom, and excitement of jumping out of a plane. The only way to comprehend is to experience it. And if you let it, it can grow on you.
This place can surprise you. I didn't think I would want to stay here more than a year. My original plan was to stay here a year, then move somewhere else, probably to Europe. And I never signed a lease. I always moved from place to place, got temporary housing, just so I wouldn't be tied down to living here. And now I want to stay, to my surprise. I found a place, I signed a lease, I have no plans to leave.
When you move to the Big Apple, you find yourself gravitating towards one of two mindsets. Either you love it, or you hate it. I think the reason I loved it so much was because I had an easy transition. I didn't move to Manhattan initially. I moved to a quiet community in Queens, much like Woodland.
So here we are waiting on a Long Island Railroad train, waiting to go to Kew Gardens. It's the first place I moved to when I moved to New York. Lived there for about a year with 5 roommates. I haven't been back since, and it will be interesting to see how much has changed or how much has stayed the same.
In the 10 years since I lived there, I was happy to see that Kew Gardens remains one of those rare places in New York that has never changed.
Welcome to Kew Gardens. As you can see, it's very, very quiet. This was my first experience when I first moved here. Nothing at all of a culture shock the following year when I ran into the city, the lights, the noise, the sound, the people. Here it's very calm, very mellow. This is also one of the first places I learned one of life's most valuable lessons, not to trust everybody I meet. I came home from school one day, found myself sprawled out through the living room. My roommate had destroyed the lease, and we had to be out that night. I had no friends. My family was 2,000 plus miles away. Get some place to stay for the night, And, well, 10 years later, here I still am, surviving.
And survival is a lesson you must learn. Otherwise, the city can eat you up and spit you out in a heartbeat.
One of those places where you have to just, I'd say, like, survive. New York's one of those fast-paced towns where you find a way to survive, and as you're surviving, you try to find a way to thrive, and that's what's really hard about it. New York really just has you thrown into this everyday movement of rushing and forward, and that's why it's so funny when you try to like step back and look at everything. You just can't help but like make fun of all the people that are just following a day-to-day routine, and even those who feel like they're better than you are following the same day-to-day routine. It's just their own routine.
And you gotta have drive.
Exactly.
There's gotta be some innate driving force that's moving you to get a little further, you know, to jump that barrier of getting stuck. Otherwise, you just become part of that.
School and my love of performing was my driving force. The American Academy definitely kept me busy. Nearly all of us were around the same age, and many friendships were made. But there was one problem. I always felt I was acting against my instincts. Then, one day, during a guest lecture, I had an epiphany.
The American Academy of Dramatic Arts was the first acting school to accept me. Their method of acting is that you create a character, you start living as that character, you start thinking as that character. So much so to the point where the line between you, the actor, and you, the character, gets blurred. And a lot of actors, really good actors at that, have forgotten who they were during a performance because they're so invested in their character that they really do not know who they are. And the only reason why I say that is because David Suchet actually came to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. Fantastic person. I saw him perform as Salieri in Amadeus here on Broadway. He was phenomenal. But the story he told us was at the end of each night, his psychiatrist gave him a list, a very extensive list of things to do immediately getting off stage. He had to say his name, give his birthday, all this looking in a mirror, say who his wife was, give the names of his children, where he's from, and so on and so forth, to remember who he was. That was a definitive moment for me that I realized not only am I not buying this method of acting, but I'm not a method actor.
That first year in New York was enough to make anybody give up. I wasn't invited back to school, all the friends I made moved back home, and the terminated lease nearly left me homeless. After a few words of encouragement from my mother, I went back to my room, packed my stuff, and took it to the Atlantic Theater Company Acting School, the 2-year professional conservatory I enrolled in a few months earlier. I stayed with classmates for 3 weeks, then moved to an apartment in Manhattan. Despite my tiny room, I was very happy. I finally found a school I loved. I grew up a lot in those 2 years. Atlantic gave me the training and confidence the American Academy never could. As my final semester approached, I decided it was time to cut my hair. I graduated from Atlantic, and now it was time to put my training to use. By this point, I had been in the city for 3 years. It was home. I quickly discovered how different the city was for someone who lived here versus the tourists.
To tourists, New York is like a mecca. Tourists from all over the world go to New York, and it's like a dream almost for so many people. It's the city of dreams for a lot of people. It's also a city of despair and a city of sorrow for a lot of others. So there's an interesting dichotomy all over New York, from Brooklyn to the Bronx to Lincoln Center to downtown business district, and then up in Harlem. You know, it's just all different kinds of people. It is America. It's a melting pot.
I mean, it's a city that's consistently changing and reforming itself. You could live in one part and it could be an ultra-violent part of New York, and that's all you could be exposed to. It's just a big mixture. It's all about depending on where you live and how that is as time goes on.
You can waste a lifetime here just doing the daily, you know, I gotta pay my credit cards, I gotta if I buy food this week, I gotta pay the rent, and you kind of just get lost in the blur.
Love the way it's easy to get around. Subway, bus.
No.
My second day. That's fine. It's a lot of people, it's like a lot of nations, like all countries in one city. Probably Times Square and Statue of Liberty. Probably yes.
Oh yeah.
If we'll have opportunity to come, yes. Perfect.
A teacher from Atlantic once told my class that we should focus on the things which are in our control rather than the things which are not. Of course, she was referring to the audition process, but it's a lesson that's applicable to life. As I get older, I find life is a balancing act, and the challenge of what to focus on can at times be overwhelming. Life in New York can magnify those feelings, and control can seem to slip away. But what are you to do when something uncontrollable shatters that delicate balance?